Okay, I'm going to show you how to create a weaving on this cardboard loom. We're going to start with the loom, and you can decide which side you want to be the back. It doesn't matter which side it is. Take a piece of tape, put it on the loom, and write your name on there. The second thing we're going to do is take a piece of yarn. I've measured this piece of yarn, and it's as long as the table. So you want to make sure that you measure a piece of yarn that's as long as the table, and a little bit longer may be good too, just because we want to have more yarn, or enough yarn to go around the whole loom. First thing you do is tape on the end of your yarn close to the bottom so that we can start weaving down here. This is the back of our loom, so I'm going to turn it over and work on the front. The first thing we're going to do is take this yarn and go in the tooth. It doesn't matter which side you start on, but I like to start on the left. I'm going to go in this tooth down here, and I'm going to go up to the top and go to the tooth above it. Now you're going to want to be tempted to go all the way around and come back down, but we do not want to create lines on the back of our loom. So make sure there's no lines on the back. Pull that out. When you get up to the top, you always want to go next door. So come next door and then go down. Whoops. Go next door and come up. Go next door and come down, next door, and come up. Continue this pattern until you've filled up your whole loom, and you should have straight lines. Okay, once you get to the end, you take that piece of yarn and you tape it onto the back. You have created your warp, the strings that go up and down on a weaving. Now we're going to need to make our weft. And in order to do the weft, you need to get another long piece of yarn. Stretch your arms out as long as you can with the yarn and measure from fingertip to fingertip, and then cut that piece of yarn. This time we don't want too much yarn because we don't want it to get in our way, and we can always get more later. So you're going to take this yarn, flip it over, and again tape it on the back. So you need another piece of tape. Tape it to the back, kind of close to the bottom because we're going to be weaving down here. Flip it over, and then you need a needle. Let me go grab a needle. The needles we're using are plastic and long. They're not pointy, so they're safe. So we're going to take the end of this string and we're going to put it through the hole in the needle, which is called the eye of the needle. Come through a little bit. You're going to wrap it around your finger. So wrap around your finger, hold that pinch, and then pull the loop off your finger and let that tail come through the hole. Okay, you can do that 2 times to make sure that the needle stays on. All right, now we're ready to make our weft, and the pattern we're using is over and under. So I'm going to start with under, and I'm going to go over. Under and over, under and over, and under my last one. I can check my pattern because I can see blue, white, blue, white, blue, white, blue. We're going to pull this needle all the way through. Try not to get any knots. Okay, pull your yarn all the way through, and we want to do what we call beat it, which means you push it down to the bottom so that we have room for more yarn in our weft. Okay, here's the tricky part. The next row has to be different than the first row or the row before it. So we want to check what we did last. The last thing we did was under. If I go under again, there's nothing that's going to hold my yarn there. So I want to do the opposite so that it locks into my warp. So instead of going under, because I just did that, now I want to go over. Over and under. Over and under. Over and under and over. You should see that the pattern is different in this row than it is in this row. It's the opposite on each piece. Again, we want to pull it all the way through. Always make sure you pull the whole yarn through and then beat it. Notice that if I pull too tight, my warp starts to move. I don't really want my warp to move because I want my bookmark, or whatever it's going to be nice and straight. So make sure we're not pulling too hard. Okay, we beat it, and now we're ready to go again. Again, it's opposite. Checking what I did before. It's over. I'm going to start with under. Under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Pull all the way through. Not too tight. And then we beat it. You can do that by pushing down with your needle or with your finger, or this next one I'll show you another trick. Alright, so you're helping figuring out what I should do next. I'm noticing that I went under this piece of yarn, so help me figure out what to do next. If you said over, you are right. So let's start with over, under, over, under, over, under. And we're going to pull that all the way through. This time, instead of beating with my fingers, I want to show you another trick. I'm going to go on and do the next row without beating it. Checking I went over, now I go under. This time, while the needle's still in my warp, I can push down the row before, and it makes all of them come down evenly, and then I can pull under. Okay, I'm going to continue weaving so that I can show you how to add a new color, because you may get to a new color today. Once you weave all of this yarn through, you'll be able to cut it off and add something that you can change colors then if you want to, or you can keep going with the same color. What's important is always looking back at what you did before. If you accidentally pulled too hard, just pull that out a little bit. Looking back at what I did before, I'm noticing that my pattern needs to change. Pull that all the way through. Beat it. Pull. Once you start doing the same motions over and over again, it'll get really easy for you to not forget a step. The neat thing about weaving too is that if you do mess up, nothing is permanent, so we can undo anything that's messed up and fix it. Notice how my weaving down here is all nice and tight. I don't have any strings that are falling out or that might look like this. I want everything to be nice and tight, so that when I take it off the cardboard loom later, my bookmark doesn't want to fall apart. Okay, I'm almost to the point where I'm ready to add new string. I like to stop when I have a tail about this long. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the yarn. I'm going to cut my little knot so that comes off my needle. Throw that away. I'm going to get a new color of yarn. Again, remember we stretch our fingers, our arms, and we measure from fingertip to fingertip. So I'm stretching my arms out as far as I can, and then I'm going to cut off a piece of yarn. So this yarn and this yarn now need to mesh or come together in a knot. So I'm going to take these two tails, I'm going to hold them together in one finger. I'm going to let them wrap around that one finger, pinch. We always want to create that loop. I'm going to pull that loop off my finger gently. I'm still pinching so that they don't come apart. And then these two tails are going to go together through the loop. And then I pull them together and it ties them in a knot nice and tight together. I can trim off that strap, and then I'll just have this nice little knot that connects them. Now I still have the other end of this yarn that needs to connect to this needle. Again, we go through the eye, give yourself a little bit of yarn to tie around your finger, pinch right there with your thumb, pull that loop off, and let the tail go through the loop. I like to do it 2 times to make sure. Okay, we're ready to weave again. So I'm going to check what I did before because it's been a while. I went over, now I'm going to go under. Pushing and beating that down, and I'm pulling this all the way through. Okay. So this is going to take us a while, but you guys will get the hang of it really fast. And I think you're going to master this weaving. I can't wait to see what you guys create. The important part is always checking to make sure that you're doing the right pattern in your weaving. So always check what you did just before on the row. All right, and keep going.